Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's press conference about Operation Blue Storm. I'd like to go with introductions first. I'm Eric Jones, Chief of Police for the Stockton Police Department. With me up here behind the podium are San Joaquin County District Attorney Tori Berber Salazar, San Joaquin County Sheriff Steve Moore, Assistant United States Attorney Jason Hitt, FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge Alyssa Doyle, ATF Assistant Special Agent in Charge Bryce McCracken, and DEA Acting Assistant Special Agent in Charge Mike Casale. Also here in the greater group here are David McDitch from Homeland Security, David Babby from State Parole, and Mark Fisher from CBP Air and Marine. As you can see, there are a lot of different agencies who have a big part of what we're going to talk about. I also want to thank all of the law enforcement officers, all of the attorneys who assisted in this case who are in attendance as well. Our focus is on gun violence and those who commit violent crimes. As part of Operation Ceasefire, all of us up here are united in our efforts to bring to justice the small group of people in this community who failed to hear our message to put down their guns and to stop the violence. What is Operation Ceasefire? Operation Ceasefire is a focused deterrence model, also known as a group violence intervention, a proven strategy across the nation to reduce violence and improve public safety. It is a community, clergy, stakeholders, and service providers coming together with law enforcement for a unified message about gun violence. It is about giving aid to those desiring it, but also holding those accountable who continue gun violence. It is not all about arrests, but arrests are necessary when groups do not heed the warnings to stop the gun violence. This is a law enforcement collaborative of local, state, and federal agencies all committed to the data. That is, which groups are the most active in illegal gun crimes. But it is also a community member collaborative to stop the violence. It is a singular message from all of us that the shootings and gun crimes must stop. Any 360-degree approach has prevention and intervention as important components. Deterrence is key, but enforcement and suppression simply must still also occur as an important component. Simply put, we are dealing with gun violence in a new way. And when groups and individuals continue with gun crimes, the community expects that we will not allow such offenders to operate with impunity. And continued gun crimes by the group we are talking about today led us to this enforcement operation, known as Operation Blue Storm. Operation Blue Storm was initiated in the later part of 2015 as a multi-agency investigation into the Northside Gangster Crips, NSGC, a criminal street gang in Stockton, California. This investigation has included critical assistance from the following organizations and agencies: the Stockton Area FBI, San Joaquin County District Attorney, San Joaquin County District Attorney Investigators, State Parole, Homeland Security, the Tracy Police Department, CDCR, ATF, DEA, and federal and local enforcement agencies in the state of Nevada. Northside Gangster Crips have been identified through Operation Ceasefire as a group that obviously did not adhere to the ceasefire message to stop the gun violence and became part of our focus. The investigation revealed that members of the Northside Gangster Crips street gang have been involved in numerous shootings, robberies, illegal weapons violations, and narcotics sales activities. This investigation has established that members of Northside Gangster Crips have been buying large quantities of heroin, marijuana, prescription pills, promethazine in Stockton. These subjects were then driving to Nevada and selling the narcotics at a much higher price than could be sold for in Stockton. Investigators located numerous guns while conducting searches at various houses and inside vehicles. The investigation has also identified that these subjects were buying firearms in Nevada through straw purchasers and either selling the guns in Stockton or keeping the guns to support gang activities. Many of these guns were stored in various houses in Stockton. A straw purchase occurs when the actual buyer of a firearm uses another person, known as a straw purchaser, to execute the paperwork. This investigation has identified several sources of supply for various narcotics in Stockton. Many of these locations were targeted during this operation. The following are the results from yesterday's operation. Locations searched yesterday in Stockton, 16. Locations searched yesterday in Reno, Nevada, 6. Arrests in Stockton, 12. And one of the 12 was a San Joaquin County Correctional Officer, Ashley Johnson. 4 were documented NSGC gang members. 1 was a documented Norteño gang member, and 1 was on post-release community supervision. Arrests in Reno in this collaborative investigation were 11. 4 were documented as NSGC gang members. Firearms confiscated in Stockton were 6, while the firearms confiscated in Reno were 7. Narcotics seized in Stockton. At a marijuana grow, approximately 6 pounds of marijuana, approximately 3 ounces of cocaine, 9 ounces of heroin, prescription meds, 3 bottles of promethazine, and narcotics seized in Reno were approximately 4 ounces of heroin and approximately 2 ounces of marijuana. Money seized, U.S. currency seized in Stockton, over $25,000, while in Reno, over $13,000. CDCR, state corrections, conducted 5 searches at various prisons, and in those searches, 5 cell phones and gang paraphernalia were located. A residence, as part of this investigation, was searched earlier on Wednesday, April 5th, in the 4400 block of Calandria. During that investigation, 6 firearms, $8,400, and marijuana per package was seized. Arrested in that related case was Harold Hill, a 53-year-old man, and 2 17-year-old juveniles, males, for narcotics and weapons. Also during the investigation, this entire investigation, we learned the following. That the Northside Gangster Crips were involved in at least 4 shooting incidents that would have otherwise gone possibly unreported and unsolved. Follow-up on the shootings led to the recovery of 6 firearms. Ballistic analysis was done, and that analysis shows already that at least 1 firearm was connected to at least 1 shooting in Stockton. In addition, investigators learned how members of the gang used the proceeds of their drug trade to illegally acquire more and better firearms, as well as the relationships between NSGC and other active criminal street gangs in Stockton. Investigators also learned how members of the gang used non-member co-conspirators, including and especially female associates and family members, to facilitate their criminal enterprise through the purchase and transportation of narcotics and firearms and the concealment of contraband in their home and vehicles. Prior to yesterday's takedown, the investigation netted the recovery of 20 illegal possessed firearms, approximately 1 pound of heroin, at an approximate street value of $16,000, and seized approximately $34,000 in cash. This was serious criminal gang activity with a history of gun violence, impacting Stockton, both connections to the prison system and Reno, Nevada as well. By partnering with our allied law enforcement agencies, this type of collaborative response is an invaluable tool in our efforts to reduce crime in the city of Stockton. I want to thank our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners for their willingness to work alongside the men and women of the Stockton Police Department and together put in countless hours of good, solid police work that resulted in numerous arrests of violent gang members and the seizure of numerous weapons and narcotics. I want to reinforce that those groups who continue to commit acts of gun violence in our community will continue to be identified and will be the focus of the law enforcement community, as was the case here with NSGC. That said, we want to emphasize that for those young people that step away from violence, the Ceasefire Partnership, through the Peacekeeper Outreach Program, as well as the Stockton's Office of Violence Prevention and our many service providers and partners are there to support them. To the officers, detectives, deputy district attorneys, agents who worked this investigation, I want to thank you for assisting with the ongoing efforts to disrupt and dismantle criminal street gangs who are committing acts of violence in and around the city of Stockton. Let me finish by saying that while the results of this investigation may make Stockton a safer community, I am committed to these types of operations and investigations in the future because getting gang members, violent criminals, weapons, and narcotics off our streets is an ongoing process to make Stockton the best that it can be. It's now my pleasure to introduce San Joaquin County's District Attorney to say a few words, Tori Berber-Salazar. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. On behalf of the San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office, we would like to thank the Stockton Police Department, the FBI, Homeland Security, Tracy Police Department, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, ATF, DEA, federal and local law enforcement agencies in the state of Nevada, and state parole. I'd also like to thank at this time Assistant District Attorney Ron Freitas, Supervising Attorney Mark Dennings, and the Deputy District Attorney that was assigned to assist throughout this investigation, Kevin Rooney, for their outstanding hard work and dedication. Together, working collaboratively with multiple agencies, we were able to pinpoint those who were critical players in an ongoing criminal enterprise. It is alleged these individuals were responsible for the sale of illegal guns, illegal narcotics, drive-by shootings, and armed robberies. Local law enforcement, coupled with the latest technology and data analysis, were able to pinpoint key players in the sales and transportation of these illegal weapons and narcotics and harm that they inflicted upon our community, decreasing our ability to allow public safety to prevail. As the chief has stated, this team was some of the best and the brightest that worked continuously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to ensure our community's safety. However, I've also worked with each of these agencies and worked with the men and women that were part of this task force. And each one of them every day spends the time and energy and effort to try to deter individuals from becoming involved in criminal enterprise. Yesterday, we graduated 6 people from the Project Navigate Constructive Change program. 6 individuals that were dealing either in narcotics or gang activity or some other kind of offense. We took them out of the system and we put them into it, and they received wraparound services. They graduated from the program, and their journey is bright. The individuals that you see here today, it's not so bright. Their journey will be much different. So today it would be easy to stand up here and grandstand and take credit, and it's well deserved. But it's also a day where we have to recognize that we're going to need to do everything we can as a community to ensure public safety and ensure that these individuals' journey is better and brighter than what we're seeing today. So I speak today to the parents, to the mothers, to the fathers, to the grandparents, to the guardians of these young people. It is incumbent upon you, whether you live in a home that is generational criminal enterprise, generational domestic violence, generational child abuse, sexual assault, generational poverty, lack of education. If you live in that home, your only opportunity, the only way you can protect your children is by keeping them away from this criminal enterprise, by enforcing and reinforcing the importance of education, by working with law enforcement, by working with our community-based and our faith-based organizations. Getting involved will allow your son or daughter to have a different journey than the one that these are going to take. So it's imperative today that we acknowledge the hard work and dedication of law enforcement in the apprehension of these individuals, because it was an ongoing criminal enterprise that did harm our community. But before we get to this day, we must continue to work very hard to ensure that we divert people from becoming involved in the criminal justice system. So I speak to you today. Reach out, get help, look to a CBO, look to a faith-based, look to law enforcement. We have many successful programs that will divert you from becoming involved in this ongoing criminal enterprise, will keep you from going to prison, will keep your children safe, will keep your neighborhood safe and free from gun violence. All of those programs are available, and they need to be adhered to and used because they are a valuable tool, and they're the most valuable tool we can use in public safety. So I want to thank the men and women that were involved in this today, because their effort was tremendous, and the success speaks for itself. But I also want to ensure that we will continue to work each and every day to ensure public safety, and those who cause the greatest harm to our community will surely and swiftly be arrested and prosecuted and incarcerated. But those who seek an alternative course, those who want a different journey, those who want their children to live a better life, or who themselves want to live a better life, there are resources available. Take advantage of them and use them. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, District Attorney. So we're wrapping up here at the press conference. We will have time for a few questions, but just want to reiterate the importance of the collaboration between all of these law enforcement agencies you see up here and others that aren't here. This was an outstanding operation to dismantle a very violent gang in Stockton, Northside Gangster Crips. You look before you at the table here, these are the firearms that were creating havoc, causing havoc within the streets. We just got these firearms off the streets. We've captured and arrested people who simply needed to be arrested, and we will continue to do so for groups out there that do not heed the warning of stopping gang violence. With that, I'd be happy to take a couple questions.
Chief,
Chief,
can you,
Here and then.
okay, can you expound on the role of Correctional Officer Ashley Johnson, her alleged role in this entire operation?
So you'll see in the, I believe in the packet that you were given, the charges are provided. But regarding the detail of the exact role, that's still under investigation. There's still a lot of work to be done, so I'm not able to go into the detail of actually how that former correctional officer was involved.
Can you give any generalization on how she was involved without giving too many details of
It's
that?
aiding, assisting criminal offenders. A question over
it was the same question.
No.
For how
Chief,
long?
can you give, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, just quick, sorry,
Sure.
just follow up. For how long was she involved, allegedly?
here. So the information we have is that for a period of time during this investigation, we learned that there was involvement, but the exact detail of when it began, I still don't have that for you today.
Chief, in your best estimation, what would you think is the dollar amount value that this gang operation had from Stockton to Nevada?
Yeah, I'll say this. We had a fairly unique situation here. We had a criminal street gang organization, the Northside Gangster Crips, working somewhat with the Norteño street gang, also connections with prison and connections with Reno, Nevada. So we're talking about a lot of narcotics, a lot of firearms. I don't have the total street value of everything confiscated, and we won't know what other equipment and narcotics were out there. But we really can't put a street value on the amount of violence and harm they were committing in our community, and just the ability for law enforcement to be able to take them and these firearms off the street. I don't think we can really put a dollar value to that.
And on that, if I may, real quick, are there any number of homicides that you could directly connect, or even shootings, to this particular gang in the past year or so?
Yeah, so Northside Gangster Crips has been an active gang for actually a couple decades. Most recently, at least one of the firearms has been connected to at least one of our shootings. That shootings was of a residence. We will still be doing ballistic analysis, and so we really don't know what else we'll find as the investigation proceeds forward.
Can you
Okay.
provide any information as to up until how recently Ashley Johnson was working as a correctional officer?
When we were advised that Correctional Officer Johnson was part of the investigation, we began to monitor her activities, working collaboratively with the Stockton Police Department and the FBI. As of yesterday, she was arrested, she was booked into the jail, and at that time she was served notice of termination as she was a probationary employee, and because she was arrested for felony charges, her employment with the Sheriff's Office was terminated, and we were very disheartened at that activity.
So she was working up until yesterday?
Yes, sir.
For how long, Chief?
Under a year, sir.
Under a year?
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, what is your reaction when you first heard about Johnson being involved in this?
As I said, we were extremely disheartened that anybody from the Sheriff's Office, under any circumstances, would be involved in any kind of criminal activity. We absolutely do our best to maintain our background checks and make sure that things are done appropriately. And we hire only the best and brightest to serve the citizens of San Joaquin County. Unfortunately, we are dealing with human beings, and human beings often make poor choices.
Was she employed at the county jail here then?
Yes, sir, she was working at the county jail.
So she's not in San Joaquin County, from what I understand, she's being housed in the Stanislaus County Jail.
No, she is not being housed here in San Joaquin County.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, one more, Broderick.
So for, and you alluded to it when you were speaking, but for years we've heard that it's a very small group of individuals who are causing most of the violence. Do you have any kind of estimation of what kind of a dent you've put in with this operation?
So we're always, with our data, in this data-driven model, we're looking at the most active groups. And so as with ceasefire, this group gained our attention for multiple shootings over the years. to say what kind of dent we're gonna put in it. I just know by getting these particular offenders off the streets and getting these particular firearms off the streets, who knows how many shootings we may have committed or prevented, we just don't know. But we will continue to do operations like this as we have to, and we'll continue to make arrests. Once again, it's not a metric that we really tout all the time, the amount of arrests we're making. But when the community is under siege from a criminal streaking as violent as this one, we absolutely have to make these types of arrests, and we hope that this has prevented violence here in our community. Thank you, everybody, for coming to today's press conference. That concludes it for today. Thank you.